Hi everyone, and welcome to 1.21 Gigawatts. I'm Peter, and this is Matt.
Hey, what's up?
Now, we talk about movies, and on this episode, we are going to discuss and review Batman the Killing Joke, which is the new animated original from Warner Brothers Animation,
hmm
based on the comic book by Alan Moore. So, now, normally we start off spoiler free. We're not going to do that this time because I don't really think there's a point. I feel like most people who seek out the animated movie probably already know the book, or at least know there's like one main thing you can spoil in this book, and I'm pretty sure anyone who cares enough to go and check it out probably knows that
Yeah.
already. Obviously, there's some new stuff in the movie, particularly in the first half hour.
Yep.
So if you don't want that spoiled, then fair enough. Come back after you've seen the movie. But since that's kind of what a lot of what we're going to be talking about is, so full spoilers for the Killing Joke. You have been warned. Oh my god! Now, now,
Peter's speechless, everyone. This is a major deal.
look, Batman v Superman was less than good. Okay, right? I'm not going to get into it, but it was less than good. However, I go in to see a movie where Bruce Timm is involved. I don't expect to be left angry and left scratching my head at decisions that were made. Because it's not Zack Snyder. I don't expect to be feeling that way. But there's one thing that Bruce Timm's always been hinting at in the
hmm
past, that he put in this full force. Like, oh, we've got an R rating, we can do this properly now. And it's something that no one who's ever been a fan of these characters has ever really wanted. This is like one weird man's fan fiction.
Yep.
And of course, what I am talking about is the fact that Batman and Batgirl fuck.
They get it on. Costumes on a rooftop.
Yeah, it reminded me a lot of that Catwoman issue one from the start of the New 52, and I hated that too.
Yep.
And I mean, I was fine with them having sex because it's Batman and Catwoman,
That we
and
count.
they
Yeah.
have that kind of thing going. But
Yeah.
Barbara Gordon, right? First of all, before we even talk about how they do it and what actually happens in the scene, right? Let's just talk about why that fundamental idea is wrong, right?
That's his best friend's daughter, number one.
Yeah, anyone who thinks this is okay, right? Anyone who's my age who thinks this is okay, you know what? Have a daughter. When she turns 18, I'm going to fuck her, and we'll see how you feel.
Well, Pete, that's not where I thought this argument was going. But okay.
I've made my point,
Yeah.
right? That's the first thing. Secondly, he himself is like a father figure to her.
Yep.
That's always been a thing. She's always looked up to him. Now, don't get me wrong. I can get her having a crush on him at some
Yep.
point. I can get the admiration because she looks up to him. I think lots of people, especially when they're in their teens, and Batgirl was in her teens when she started becoming Batgirl. Maybe tail end of her teens, but like I get like admiring someone who's a bit older who you look up to and want to be
Yep.
like. I get that. I'm pretty sure most of us in our teens had at least one crush on someone who was at least 10 years older because it's normal, right? That's a
hmm
problem. But the real issue there was though, right? So she kisses him first, right? She makes a move, right? I can even be okay with that because she's the young one. I mean, don't get me wrong, she's maybe in her early 20s by this point. I think that Barbara Gordon's smarter than this, but
Yeah.
I'll accept it. Batman, however, I was expecting him to push her away and be like, no.
Yep.
For the reasons that I have stated. Just no. But no. It just continues. His hands go on her ass, she takes off her top, the camera tilts up, and sexy times happens. And then if that's not bad enough, if that's not, I mean, this was cringe inducing. I was like feeling so uncomfortable during this. It was really, really weird. The whole time I had my hands in my head and I'm like, what are you doing? What are you doing? This is wrong. What, you'd stop it.
Your hands on your head than anywhere else.
Yeah, I was not feeling this at all. And to make matters worse, like the entire this first half hour of the movie, which is supposed to be there to add more to Barbara Gordon's character, does nothing but take away from her character because she
Yeah.
comes across as a needy, like obsessed girl who I don't know, Batman doesn't come off entirely well either. It kind of ruins both their characters.
Yeah.
Because he's just had sex with his friend's daughter, who he met when she was still a kid,
Yep.
right? He's then not calling her afterwards. And then on the flip side of that, she's being really needy, constantly nagging him. And by the way, the scene where she like yells down the phone, it was just sex. Like, or no, it was just sex, okay? Like, I did not need that in my life.
Nope. Not from Barbara Gordon.
No.
And oh man, the whole, like you said, the whole needy girl thing. I don't want that in my superhero stuff. Like that, save that for the CW teen drama stuff. You know,
It's
like
just, but it's, I mean, the worst part about it is that it's not Barbara Gordon. And then, well, I say that's the worst thing. The real worst thing is that it changes everything for the rest of the movie. Like, when it gets to the stuff that's actually in the book and they do the killing joke, which is it's actually worth mentioning, this movie is really disjointed because it's half an hour of another story, and then, oh, time to do the killing joke.
yeah, that's probably the worst part about it. You could have cut out the Batgirl stuff, and it would have been a better presentation. Granted, it'd be a half hour shorter, but that's not a long book, anyways. Like,
Yeah.
I almost would have preferred for them to go into Jim Gordon's background in Chicago and seeing the shit that he's seen that, you know, got him to transfer to Gotham.
Yeah. Well,
You know?
because most of the actual adaptation stuff is fine. I don't think the ending translates very well.
No.
Hamill's great. Like that. This is the thing. The animation looks very good. It looks like the most like the '90s animated series than any of
Yep.
these original movies, which is why it's a crying shame that I hated it.
Well, it also looks like the Brian Boland artwork from The Killing Joke meets the Bruce Timm style of animation, and yeah, it looks gorgeous.
Yeah, it does. There's some really creepy
Then they
moments.
go and ruin it with stupid shit. Like,
But yeah, so the point I was getting at though is that, but like, because of this has happened, because we've had this sex scene, it completely changes the undertone to the rest of this whole story. Because when she gets shot and she goes down, and Batman comes to see her, and then he goes around and like starts beating people up. You know, where's Joker? Where is he? Like, his motivations feel changed. They don't feel the same. They feel like he's going after the Joker because he's hurt someone that he fucked,
right.
and it feels wrong. It feels, and there's a lot of people that have a lot of problems with Killing Joke, and I kind of get it. Get why they
Yeah.
have problems, and this just amplifies everything. This just like
Well,
if
this takes the people that have those problems and turns it to 11.
yeah, like if you thought Barbara Gordon was misused in that story before, if you thought she was just a character, like a plot point, she was just a tool for the story,
Yeah.
for the Joker to mess with Jim Gordon, and you're kind of right. I'm not necessarily against that happening in stories occasionally. I mean, we can get into debates like, you know, like should
Yeah.
that have happened, and I think, yeah, I think she is misused in the book. It's never bothered me too much because it makes for a great Joker story, but she is misused. Like,
Well, yeah, because she's not the focus of that original story. She just happens to be there when Joker comes knocking. Like, Joker didn't go out of his way to gun down Barbara Gordon in front of her dad. She just was collateral damage. And here, they almost make it, because of the setup from the horrible first half hour, you know, it almost drives the point home that he's doing this, you know, because it's Barbara Gordon.
it also implies rape a lot more than the book did.
And I mean, that's, again, the people that have the problems with The Killing Joke is because it gets these feelings going that sometimes you don't want to feel reading comic books. And I think that was Alan Moore's part, because the whole point of it is that, you know, anybody can become the Joker on a bad day, but on the inverse, anybody can become Batman after a bad day. And Gordon's the control group here. Like, what's he gonna do? Is he gonna break? Is he gonna push through? You know, and so when he starts seeing these horrible images of Barbara, you know, what is he gonna do? And in this, the whole, like, Batman goes to talk with some prostitutes. Then now it's to find the Joker has a sex drive. Like, we talked about this offline.
Yeah.
And that just... And I know it's supposed to get this feeling, so I know I'm not a sociopath, but it just made me feel icky and, like, you know?
Well, this is the thing. Like, I do think she is misused in the book, right? But For two reasons, I think it's never bothered me too much. One is that this was written long before I ever started reading comics, and before I even heard of the character, because I wasn't even born yet, right? And because of that, this is just always what happened. This happened years ago in the Killing Joke, and she became Oracle afterwards, and that was just always part of the past. So it's kind of just this accepted thing because of that. If this had never happened and they'd done it now, I might not feel the same way about that.
Right.
So I can see that side of the argument. And the other reason why I don't think it's bothering me too much is because as much as she is used as a tool, it's used in such a way that makes sense for the character of the Joker, that he would do something this depraved. Like the idea that he would take pictures of like Jim Gordon's daughter as she's lying there bleeding naked, and would show him these images to try and break him. Like that sounds like the Joker. I mean, it kind of informed me in a lot of ways. This is one of the first Batman stories I read, probably,
Right.
and just how fucked up the Joker actually is. So I think in that sense it works quite well. And then I could also argue, well, could he have done this with other people and not, treated a character who we care about like Barbara Gordon? But then I think, would it have the impact? That is the reason why it hurts so much, is because it is a character that we care about and that we've seen for years and we know and we respect. Because James, who's in our Facebook group, Mailed for us on Facebook, check it out if you want to, go search on Facebook. He brought up a really interesting discussion point about victims in TV shows, like in procedural cop shows, where there'll be a scene at the start where some girl gets murdered, and then the episode's about the cops finding the killer or whatever, right? And it's like no one ever complains about those, and those are not typically any better or worse than what the Joker does to Barbara,
Right.
and it's the reason why we don't care, because they're just like they're effectively red shirts, to use a term from Star Trek.
Well, no, it is. You're disassociating yourself from them as being humans.
But the story needs a victim, so you're just like, okay, we have a victim.
Right.
That's what the story revolves around.
But you could also, I mean, again, you can't take out the Barbara stuff because it goes to Gordon, but Gordon's also a victim here.
Oh, of course, yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's again where I feel that the movie made the mistake, was it didn't focus enough on Gordon. I hadn't read The Killing Joke until last year. Like, it had been something that had just been off my radar. Like, okay, I know what happens. I don't really need to give this read through. But I caught it in a sale, so I read it. And I was surprised that it was a Joker and Gordon story more than even a Batman and Joker story.
I would say it's more evenly split between the three, but I get what you're saying.
But yeah, and so because of all this stuff that I had heard about with Barbara, and it made her Oracle, and I figured she played a much bigger part.
Yeah, she's just kind of there, and it happens.
Yeah,
that's pretty much it.
So again, like, they turn and they make it about Barbara, and they didn't. It's completely unnecessary.
I think the reason why Gordon isn't seen as being treated as poorly in it, partly because he's not paralyzed, but partly
But like,
no, but hold on,
again,
but partly I think the reason why he's not seen as being treated as poorly is because at the end of the story, when Batman comes and chases the Joker off, before he chases him and he talks to Gordon, Gordon says, "No, do this by the book. He needs to see our way works." Yeah. Like, he keeps his character intact. He has this strength despite what's happened. Whereas Barbara Gordon, in nothing in that story does she get a chance to show how strong she is.
No.
And I think that I do agree that's a problem.
And that comes later as Oracle. And that's why I always felt like, as much as I like her as Batgirl, I felt she was always better as Oracle, because
that's nothing to do with Killing Joke, though.
But
no, but
without the Killing Joke, they don't go through with making her Oracle.
Well, no, you're right. They made the best out of that situation, but that's not. You can't say, "Oh, the Killing Joke is fine for doing this because it gave us that later." They did that because that happened. Like, in the story itself, it feels like she needs a moment of strength. She needs a moment of.
Well, okay, you're talking to the movie, not the comic.
I'm talking about both.
See, because if I would agree in the comic if she was in it more, then yeah, but she's again treated like a story piece there.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Matt, well, how would you feel though if? Right, so what if they did a similar kind of story in a couple of years, right, where the Joker shot Lois Lane? Now, Lois Lane was barely in the story itself. It was like a 180-page thing that came out.
You're describing Kingdom Come, but okay.
Yeah, but that's an Elseworld set in the future.
Well, that was that was originally Killing Joke wasn't originally continuity either. So when Moore took this job, it's not
Yeah.
like he knew there was going to be ramifications down the line that they took and ran with.
But
But I get what you're saying. But again, for me, the pivot point is on Gordon more than on Barbara. So she has to lay there in the bed, right? And that's makes for a shocking, visual.
oh no, it is, and that scene works well, more so in the comic. And in the movie, it's
Right.
completely fucked because of what happened earlier
Yeah.
on, and it's got this weird tension, which was horrible.
Exactly, and that's why I hate to keep going back to the book, but the book is the superior version of this because it is so close, like down to the Joker flashbacks and whatnot. Like it's the book brought to life, which that's something special in and of itself because not even any of the other DC animated movies have been this close to the story. You know?
No, no, you're right. It's really faithful, except for the tacking on
The first half hour.
an extra half hour
Yeah.
of shit.
Which isn't even that good. Like even if that was an episode of Batman the Animated Series, it would have been one of the worst episodes. Like
Oh yeah, because
with the
not
Paris friends, like that's the villain you're giving me.
yeah, because not only does the whole stuff with Batman happen that completely makes the whole thing about sex,
Yeah,
the villain is like this weird pervert who's dying to get into Batgirl's pants.
yeah,
And he does all these weird perverted things to her and says all these perverted things to her, and it makes the entire thing about sex.
yeah. And like I feel like if you're gonna make him a character, you do it in the first 10 minutes. You have Batgirl kick the ever loving crap out of him, and put him away, and that's her defining moment. You know what I mean? She doesn't get she does her job, and then off the job is when the real bad stuff happens. But I just feel the whole Paris France stuff is just it's so bad cartoon. Everything's ham fisted. He looks creepy. Like they draw him in a way where he just
Yeah.
they're just
I mean, as far as the movie goes, I mean, the entire first hour was bad, but the decision to have them be in a relationship or have sex and have this weird tension
yep,
after, like that scene, that one scene of them having sex ruins this entire thing.
yep.
It
No,
ruins
it
it all.
does.
And it's a
Like
shame.
you said, Conroy back as Batman was good. Hamill's back next level as Joker.
Yeah, which is a
You know,
shame because that's one
yeah.
thing ruins all of it. Like,
And this was the one project that was bringing them back together after I don't know how many
yeah,
years.
I was never going to. I'm never going to watch this again. Like,
Oh no,
this is never getting looked at again.
oh no, there's nothing to it. Like I need to watch it, and I almost rather watch. And you guys all know how I feel about Dark Knight Returns, but that movie makes me forgive all the stuff from the comic
Yeah,
because it's
that movie's
so
pretty good.
well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I might watch that again one day. This though is something like I'm so glad I didn't wind up going to the theater. I waited for the home, you know, because I know that was an option.
Yeah.
So
It, the whole thing baffles me.
yeah,
Barbara Gordon, even in the book, which arguably was still pretty great anyway. Some people have, don't like the Barbara Gordon stuff and they hold it against it, and that's fair enough. I can see why. But outside of Barbara Gordon being treated poorly, it's a really well written book because it's Alan Moore, and the guy, once upon a time, he wrote a great fucking comic, you know?
yep,
Not his best, obviously, because, things like Watchmen exist,
right.
among others. But, like, it was a great comic with that sort of one blunder of mistreating a character. The movie?
It
It,
takes it up a
it
notch,
bastardizes her.
or 11.
It bastardizes Batgirl. In turn, it also basically bastardizes Batman for him actually going along with it as well. Like, it ruins both of them. Her more so, but they're both fucked from this.
Yeah, I see it worse on Batman because again, that's like he knows better. This isn't Catwoman who uses it as a power play. This is
Yeah.
someone that looks up to him, and he has the every opportunity to just go like, no, Barbara, what are you doing? Stop.
By the way, they announced the next batch of DC animated movies, and one of them is Bruce
Yep.
Timm doing a Batman and Harley movie. And my first thought was, oh great, they're going to fuck.
What can she say? She loves crazy dudes.
Oh dear. She wants to get. She wants to make Puddin jealous.
Yeah. Oh, geez. See, and all of this also made me go back and listen to Fat Man on Batman and Kyle Higgins recounting his favorite stories from Batman. And, Killing Joke is not on there, because of a lot of these issues. And then, it's so weird how quickly that came up. You brought up Harley and it reminded me,
Hmm.
you know.
But yeah, Batman the Killing Joke unfortunately is not good
Yeah.
because lots of things, but mainly one thing, the one big thing that just I mean it made me feel so uneasy. It was like watching incest happen in front of me.
Yep. And not in the Game of Thrones way either, like in the worst way.
Wait, is the Game of Thrones way better?
Well, at the end of the day, the Game of Thrones way, it's not, you know, because they're actors playing fictional characters. Here, these are very much representations of characters that are real to us because we read them every month,
Yeah.
you know? So, at least there with Game of Thrones, there's a wedge in between there. With here, it is the worst kind.
Well, I just hope Bruce Timm doesn't have plans for Superman and Supergirl anytime soon, because
No.
that would be actually literally be incest.
Yeah,
Uh,
actual. Yeah.
yeah. So no, that's Batman the Killing Joke. Let us know what you think, guys. If you had the same problems we did.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, check out the other stuff we do over on the TV channel on YouTube, Fuzz TV. You can check our weekly TV reviews, and we talked a lot about a comic book in this one. We do a
Yep.
DC Comics podcast every week where we talk about all the week's DC comic books. That goes up every weekend, so check that out too if you want to, over on the TV channel. And also on this channel, you have all the horror movie stuff that I do with Tim. Other than that, go check out our friends over at Rowan's Reviews. They do written content based on movies, not comics, concerts, I was meant to say there, and albums, and they do all that kind of stuff, all opinion piece stuff. Check them out, there'll be a link in the description. Other than that, guys, though, get us on Twitter at mailed_fuzz, email us mailedfuzz@gmail.com. I've got nothing left.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, guys, that's it. That's Killing Joke. Killed enthusiasm for real.
It did. It did. Thanks for watching, guys. Keep watching movies. Better ones. We'll see you
Yeah,
next time.
just not the Killing Joke.